just let everybody be free. It looks like progress is defined as the amount of freedom that we can express, and wealth as a measure of freedom, and freedom is as a measure of wealth. It goes both ways. We discussed all of these things in the episodes before, and now the question, of course, is, well, okay, fine. You're telling me that the more free people are, the more wealth they create. So why don't we just let everybody be free? Why are companies organized around bosses? Why is there hierarchy in this world? Am I an anarchist? Am I a socialist? What is going on here? I want to discuss these questions today. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's October 27, 2020. This is Krim Delco. For the day, the fund's up 2%. The market's down 0.5%. For the year, we're up roughly 206%. And the market is up roughly 5%. So we're outperforming by 201%. The market is still open, so these things could change. It is Tuesday morning right now. So the question is, well, why isn't everybody just free? I've discussed at length, based on David Deutsch's book and based on Peter Thiel's book, that we have more wealth creation if people are unique, if people are monopolies of themselves, if people are able to express free will. Free will is the absolute essence of performance, because if we just do what everybody else is doing, by definition, we can't create anything. So having said all of that, of course, then the question comes up, well, so why aren't we just letting everybody be free? And another thing that David Deutsch says in his book, which is very, very powerful, it is innovation is basically the ability of people to do something that no algorithm exists yet. So we can do something abstract, creative, and the definition of that is that there's no algorithm to do it. So this is exactly what progress is. This is what Clayton Christensen always said is growth. This is what Peter Thiel is saying in his book, 0 to 1. This is roughly also what Jim McKelvey is saying in the innovation stack, which is that you create something out of nothing. You create new things. You create things that haven't been done before, and you do them in the innovation stack. You do them piecemeal, you do them in a parochial way. So you start solving parochial problems that are right in front of your face, and then slowly build yourself up to something very powerful, something very new, which we call a great business worth trillions of dollars. This is the idea of the innovation stack, and it's rooted in this idea that we create something that there is no algorithm for that. No algorithm exists for what we're about to create. This is innovation. This is what we look for at Orange Capital Partners. But now let's get back to the question. So why isn't everybody be free? Because it looks like the ability to create something that there's no algorithm for it, so something that no algorithm exists for it, can only be created if you are free to try something else. And this also ties into our conversation from yesterday about the education system and the problems with the education system. Because let's be clear, most of our education system, almost the whole system, is geared towards doing what has been done before. We learn what has been done before. We learn not just knowledge, but also culture and things the way they're done, particularly when we go to prestigious institutions such as high schools and universities and then companies. I've worked in very prestigious companies. I've been in prestigious universities. They teach you how things have been done before. Now, what they teach you, for example, I went to the University of Chicago, and there they teach you knowledge which has been conveyed to us by people who won the Nobel Prize in economics. And they, by definition, have been very creative at developing new ideas. So, of course, here's the problem. Nobody is teaching you, well, how did these people actually come up with those ideas? And that's the powerful thing. That's the actual creationist, where you come up with something that no algorithm exists before. This is the fundamental idea of disruptive innovation, something that there's no algorithm that exists for that particular problem. And now let's go a little bit deeper here. We, as Orange Capital Partner, our mission is to generate wealth by investing in disruptive technologies with large impact. So if we now translate that as we want to generate freedom by investing in something that there's no algorithm before, and where the solution has large impact. This is a translation from our mission into a more granular explanation of what we're trying to do. So we try to generate freedom equals wealth. We do it by investing in disruptive technology equals there's no algorithm to solve the problem that we're attacking, and the problem has agency, meaning it has a lot of impact. This is what we're doing. And the question that I raised yesterday is, well, in our education system, nobody's being educated to do this. So the only people that end up doing these kinds of things, the only people that actually end up being what we call entrepreneurs are the people who don't fit in the system. And of course, the question from a social perspective and also from our business perspective is, couldn't we have more of such people? And this is the question I raised yesterday. Today, I want to raise a different question. Why don't we just let everybody be free? For example, how about universal income for everybody? How about, I just read an essay by Maurice Fourier, an architect, early 19th century France, who was dreaming up something that we would call a commune today. So the dream was to build what he called philisteres, which are monasteries, but not monasteries to worship God, but monasteries to live a productive life. He's an architect, and I think architecture is very important in these days, particularly in these days of pandemics, because architects change the way we live. They're also a mirror through which the laws of physics manifest themselves onto us, i.e., they are sort of a catalyst that change happens through, and then we can see it visually. What I mean with that is, for example, in Maurice Fourier's times, there was the French Revolution just happened, Napoleon just happened, and we had huge change in French society. So one way this manifests itself is in the desire to live in new ways. For example, everybody's equal. Everybody can contribute to society. There's no more feudalism. So Maurice Fourier, in his concepts as an architect, tried to manifest all of these ideas into physical reality, into what he called Philistère, which is, again, it's something like imagine like a Versailles palace, but for the common people. And the ideas then were translated into other ideas, namely Marx and Lenin and communes and kibbutz and all that, comes from those ideas. So the early socialists, if you want, the early utopian socialists, they came from France, and not surprisingly, they came from a time when there was lots of turmoil. Today, we have a lot of turmoil too. We have the pandemic. Questions such as, should we live the way we've been living before? Questions such as, should Manhattan as a city still exist? Do we need office towers? All these questions are coming up, and architects, again, for sure, will be a mirror of our new culture. The reason I'm coming up with all of this is that if we have this massive change in culture, then it is also, I think, time and possible and also necessary maybe to talk about change in education and change in acquiring of human capital, which education is, at least from a business perspective. When we talk about education, we care about the acquisition of human capital. It applies to our son as much as it applies to everybody else. And as fund managers, as uh, managers of financial capital, we are in the business of giving financial capital to human capital to accumulate more financial capital, or like our mission says, to generate more wealth, which is nothing but generate more freedom. And we do that by investing in disruptive technologies, which are technologies that are basically algorithms, solutions for problems that we haven't yet figured out an algorithm for. So, for example, Tesla is trying to figure out how to defossilize, decarbonize the energy infrastructure. There's no algorithm for that. There's no book that says how to do that. There's no company, no experience. It is from scratch building something out of nothing through building an innovation stack. And we've discussed that at length, that Tesla is a perfect example of an innovation stack where you start solving parochial problems that are right in front of you. You create new problems, you solve them, and slowly you build a company which is based on rapid innovation, which is based on innovation stack, which is very hard to penetrate from a competitive perspective, and therefore becomes a large, valuable company that happens to solve a very important problem. So we think that this idea of creating solutions for problems that there is no algorithm that have no algorithm yet to be solved for, that is the absolute key for us as investors that we look for, and we can only achieve that if we express freedom. We need to be able to be free to come up. This is the essence of human beings. This is the difference between humans and ants and other animals and pretty much anything in the universe, at least according to David Deutsch in the beginning of Infinity. Humans are this one creature in the universe that has the ability through explanations to change the course of evolution, to change to the course of their own development and their environment. Explanations are a way to understand the underlying dynamics of a certain process, a physical process or an abstract process. It's the understanding of the process. It's not the deduction of the process. So the explanation, the creativity is what really drives progress. And you can best do that, not only, but best do that if you have free will, if you express free will, if you are free to do what you want in in the context of agency and autonomy. Of course, like I said in the episode about that, it is of course not the kind of agency and autonomy where you smoke pot and just do nothing, nor is it the kind of agency of autonomy where you kill people a la natural born killer. It has agency and autonomy. Agency meaning you have to have an impact, and the impact has to be in line with, let's say, the goals of society at large. At least the impact has to be in line with our own goals. So we invest in your business, and in order to survive, you also have to have impact that society tolerates. But the question now is, why don't we let everybody be free? Why do we have hierarchies? It's a good question. I don't have a very good answer. Peter Thiel in 0 to 1 tries to tackle the problem. He says that people are genuinely not able to work together, so they need managers to tie it together. I think in Maurice Fourier's writings, he says also that one of the criticisms of his Philistère is that people, if they live in something like a commune, cannot live together because people compete, people oppose each other. That's part of our nature. And to be fair, I think that's, first of all, 100% true. And that makes it much more difficult to let people be free, because if they're free, they're going to compete and oppose. So it's going to be inefficient. It's going to be lots and lots of inefficient, or if you want, there's going to be lots of energy loss. Instead, if we streamline people, groups into startups, companies, we put managers in place, things like that, we have a better chance to achieve our goals. I think fundamentally it's in human nature to compete and oppose each other, because that's how evolution has made us evolve. I think we're not evolved to work together in a commune type or Philistère type of way. Maybe we will in thousands of years, but right now we're not. So right now we have to work with a local optimum, which is this us competing and showing altruism and showing cooperation in certain specific conditions. For example, when we show altruism, when we have problems that we think could also come back to us. So we help older people because we will get old one day, and we will be happy if somebody helps us. We show cooperation in companies because we both are trying to achieve the same goal. We show cooperations in sports. If you play soccer, you cooperate with your teammates because the team wins. It's not you. So there are these, I would call them local maxima, local optima, where we do show not just competitive opposition, but we show certain types of cooperation, altruism, and startups, companies in general are trying to optimize that equation, where is how much freedom, what's the optimal amount of freedom under the constraint of opposition and competition. The best solution that we found as humans, as also investors, is you find this place where there are strong leaders with a strong vision that glue everybody together. The best example would be the Catholic Church, Islam, Judaism. So the religions are very good at that, that no matter where you live, if you have that belief, you express certain behavior. I can count on you to do certain things. You're not going to drink alcohol. You're going to fast during Ramadan. You're going to not work on Saturday as a Jew. So things like that are very strong, and you can mimic that in a company. That's why we sometimes call companies like Tesla cult companies. I think that there's other examples like that. For example, Whole Foods used to be a bit like that. Apple used to be a bit like that. So there's a lot of these sort of, like I call them, local minima, local maxima, local optima, where we find solutions to the cooperation problem, but we can't just let everybody go free. That's unfortunately, we're not there yet. We might be able to get there at some point. And by definition, we should get more progress. We should get more innovation if that happens. Right now, we're not there. For sure, we're not there. So we have to find better ways to cooperate and work together under the constraint is that we want to the idea is how much freedom can we get from a particular company under the constraint that people will oppose each other, have different ideas. Why do people actually oppose each other? And I think there's some good explanations for that. One is it's genetic. If you're good at this and I'm good at that, I'm going to push for that. I don't want you to do this. I don't want us to do this. If I'm very good at solving the vision problem through cameras, I don't want LiDAR and sensor fusion to be a big part of our stack. I'm going to fight for what I'm better at, and I'm going to try to put out what I'm not very good at. So opposition, to some extent, competition of ideas and these kinds of things within a company is also very good. So you see, it's a very tricky question, and Thiel, in his book 0 to 1, answers the question of what is the optimal amount of freedom. He simply says, look, the most important thing is the beginning. Start the company with the right culture, the right foundation, and then let it go and try to interfere as little as possible. I'm not sure about that, but the question is open. It's not, this episode is not going to give you the answer. It's more of an open question. And we have this problem that the more freedom, the more free will, the more creativity, the more progress. But then we also have this urge to streamline everybody to pull on the same string. And that is an optimization problem that I think we as investors have to help solve. This is not just the founders' business. This is a problem of the stakeholders, and particularly the investors who put financial capital into human capital to develop more financial and human capital. They have to help find this balance. And right now, I think we're at a point where the best possible solution is the kind of visionary founder who glues everybody into a vision so their behavior becomes predictable. And then you can let them be free in terms of technology, in terms of creativity, in terms of finding solutions for things that there's no algorithm for. But overall, they're still working towards the same goal. I think this is why Elon Musk says, I want to go to Mars. I want to decarbonize energy, because he puts the post so high that by definition, everybody who works for that company is going to go into that direction. And it's very far away. And even the most parochial problems within Tesla still can be comprehended within the context of going towards that goal. I think this is the best solution we can come up with right now. So as a summary, the best investments are those where you have a very strong, far-reaching vision with a strong founder who can propel that vision throughout the company, and a bit like a religion, make sure that everybody acts accordingly and works towards the same goal. This is how we can align ourselves with the mission of a company, because we're sure that the mission will be pursued, and then our mission can be also fulfilled through investing in that company. Thank you.